Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here, got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with my deck primer for Mitsurugi Ryzeal. I've already released a full combo guide. I'm going to link that in the description below in case you want to see that. But this first game will also serve as a pretty good demonstration of just like playing this deck turn one. We're going to lead with Habakiri here in particular. We also have Bonfire in case we need to search up, you know, a Ryzeal monster to further extend our plays with. But, of course, if you're familiar with the combo lines for this deck, then you'll know that Habakiri by itself is definitely more than enough to end on your full end board. And, again, if you're not familiar, feel free to check out that combo guide linked down below. But yeah, we're going to start, of course, with the Night Sword Serpent and wheeling the Ritual back to our hand with the Kusanagi. Now Ritual send Habakiri to summon Murakumo. I imagined if you've been playing Ranked Ladder for any amount of time in the last couple of days, you've probably seen this before. So, Mitsurugi is definitely as strong as it was hyped up to be, with the ability to put out the very unique Murakumo negate on top of multiple bodies. Not just bodies to set up Ryzeal plays, but even an IP Masquerena, which I think is pretty optional in Ryzeal in particular. But at the same time, it's like there's kind of no reason not to do it, IMO. I saw a comment that was actually like, you could go into Boon of Closed Heaven and set up Fiendsmith instead, and I'm like, oh, don't tempt me to build a 60-card build. I will definitely do it, but yeah, I'm just going to use the Bonfire to grab the Ice Ryzeal here. If I didn't have the Bonfire, of course, I think my Duo Drive searches would have been a little bit different. Also actually helps that I opened the Ryzeal node here, or I guess node Ryzeal, because that is normally something you would want to search off the Duo Drive. I think normally you would just grab Sword plus node, but again, we had Bonfire for Ice here, so we're all set. Grabbing that Nib and mid combo. I'm actually going to do a lot of like pretty extra stuff because of the way my hand is and the fact that my opponent doesn't always seem to have any hand traps at all. Like, I'm gonna go into this Banshee, right? That way I can search Star Ryzeal, but I'm not actually playing the Plasma Hole, so instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Plugin, Revive Node, then I'm gonna use Cross to put the plugin back into my deck, overlay into Detonator, and then after Detonator is in the EMZ, or not the EMZ, because IP is in the EMZ, but after Detonator has freed up one of my main monster zones, then I can special summon Star, and then just reset the plugin. Did I have to do this? No. Did I want to do this? Absolutely. Just wanted to see how further I could extend the inboard beyond what it could normally go. So, opponent's going to lead 7th Ascension for Tachyon. I assumed this was going to be a mirror match, but then they revealed C101 and searched the Kairyu Shen, and I became much less scared, because I've of course already set up my board state. Was surprised to see Horus cards on the follow-up, but I'm just going to use my Ash Blossom to take care of that, because why not? No reason not to. Now here they're to go for a Thrust, and I could have used the Great Purification to negate it, but instead I decided I was going to use the Murakumo, force them to discard one of their 2 remaining cards, and then Great Purification will just negate whatever the Thrust searches here. Sure enough, they have to send Electric Jellyfish. That means their last card in hand, besides the evenly match they just searched, is the Kairyu Shin that they added as well. So now I know both the cards in their hand, and I'm really not scared at all. Before they go to battle phase, I'm going to use IP Masquerena to make SP. So, like, even if I already, or rather, even if I didn't have Great Purification, and my opponent went evenly here, I could still chain SP, tag it in the Murakumo out, keep my Detonator. My opponent would only have the Kairyu Shin, and I would still have Detonator, plus the end phase I would still get Little Knight and Murakumo back. But here I can just banish the Imseti from their yard, and then yeah, they'll go evenly, and of course we're just going to negate with the Great Purification. So what was previously Ryzeal's biggest weakness in the form of evenly, a banishing board breaker, is now nothing at all. It does not mean anything at all to Ryzeal anymore. Ah, so good, so good. But we have some more duels to check out. Let's go into the next one here. For this next game, we're going to be up against Maliss, which I did run into quite a few times, actually, in my first play session with the deck here. Now, with a hand like this, thankfully we do have the call by for the Max C. But with a hand like this, we didn't open any Mitsurugi cards, but more than that, we opened Sword and X'd. Which means that in order to go into my plays, I'm going to have to Xyz lock myself. That means no IP Masquerade, but that's literally the only thing that an Xyz lock affects in this deck. We can still make some Mitsurugi plays if we wanted to go into like King of the Pharaoh Imps, but I'm going to focus on going into more of a Ryzeal board, and, well, you'll see what ends up happening here, but yeah, I opted to go for the duo drive. If I wanted to, I could have gone into King of the Pharaoh Imps here instead. Actually, since I have Node and Ice both, that wouldn't have been a horrible idea. And actually, now that I'm like talking it out, I really should have done that with a hand like this. If I didn't have, like, if this was just 4 pieces of non-engine, then I think you would more heavily consider going into duo drive here. But because I had so many other Ryzeal cards to work off of, I really should have gone for King of the Pharaoh Imps. Instead, I decided to go for Cross and Plug-in. I was just scared of Nibiru, I think, more than anything else, because Nib is a lot more common nowadays. Gonna use the Node here in order to try to revive the X. I did decide to use Plug-in. This was a little bit risky because now I'm not as protected against Nibiru. However, I can still reset the Plug-in with Star later, so this will give me an extra body to work with as well with the Plug-in there. We can actually use the Cross to put the plug-in back, and as you see here, I just happened to top deck the Habakiri. So, there I could have gone to King of the Feral Imps as well, and I think here I would have done it, seeing how many extra bodies I have access to. But in this case, we don't have to. We just top deck the Habakiri, because we're just the luckiest player in the world. So, it's all set. But yeah, it's easy to think like, oh, I Xyz locked myself, or I rank 4 locked myself, so I can only do Ryzeal stuff, but no. Of course, being a ritual archetype, the Mitsurugi stuff, you can still do all of that even if you're rank 4 locked. It's one of the reasons why Ryzeal and Mitsurugi play so well together. They're 2 exceptionally powerful archetypes whose locks don't interfere. Well, Ryzeal's the only one with locks, because Mitsurugi doesn't have any locks, but Ryzeal's locks don't interfere with playing Mitsurugi card. Again, we can't set up the IP, but that's about it, so that's really completely fine with me, honestly. Yeah, we can even still pivot into the Gallant Granite, allowing us to go for the Nibiru search as well. Setting that Great Purification, passing over to our opponent, who doesn't even want to play into this board state. They're just going to concede right away. Not that I blame them. You know, this board is a little bit less impressive than our last one, but even then, it still has the Murakumo negate / discard, the Great Purification negate. That is such a nasty combo, by the way, to have both the Murakumo and the Great Purification, because the Murakumo, you can just chain in response to an effect that is like kind of important, but doesn't super matter, and your opponent will get the discard in, or again, you'll just simply negate it. And then you still have the Great Purification for a card that you actually want to negate. But of course here we also still have Detonator and Cross and Plugin and Nibiru. So good. A couple more games before we finish off here. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is going to be a very brief replay against the mirror match. It's only going to be 1 turn, but I just wanted to mostly show here like how well this deck can play through hand traps a lot of the time. I mean, here, as you can see right off the bat, we already opened Habakiri plus Ice Ryzeal. This is already just an insane way to open. But I also love seeing my opponent start with the draw phase Artifact Lancia, because that to me is just like basically hand-ripping themselves for 1. I think that Lancia should have been held here, not even just to see if I'm on Maliss, but once you see that I'm not, you could use Lancia to like bluff Nibiru, for example, or do any number of things really, as far as like bluffing hand traps goes. But yeah, obviously, like I said, Lancia we don't care about, and here, like I mentioned before, we opened Habakiri and Ice Ryzeal, so I'm going to lead with the Habakiri since it doesn't require us to commit our normal summon. Now, as soon as one of my monsters hit the board, my opponent was constantly getting past priority, which to me, also given the fact they haven't chained anything yet, was a sign that they're on Valor / Imperm, which is completely fine in a situation like this, because as you can see, there hasn't really even been a good chance for them to activate it yet. because none of my monster effects are activating on the field, right? Yeah, we can go Prayer, search the Aramasa here. Bring back the Murakumo, which also adds Great Purification. Doesn't even add it after it's summoned. It adds it while it's still in the graveyard, which is so ridiculously broken. Alright, so here I'm going to go for Duo Drive. I just wanted to see if it was actually Imperm, and sure enough, it actually was Imperm. Now, not only does the Imperm not really matter here because I have an extender, but remember, Murakumo can activate as well. And I imagine my opponent's going to want this to go through, so I can just get a free hand rip out of my opponent here. Going to force them to discard. The card is of their choice that they discard. They chose to discard an X Ryzeal here. So I'm guessing the other two cards in hand were like maybe a Mitsurugi card and a Ryzeal card, or two other Ryzeal starters, but yeah, we're going to make the IP Masquerena and then just go normal summon Ice Ryzeal. And this is the point at which they concede, which is completely understandable. They only have two cards left in hand, and I'm about to completely style and still go full combo on them. But consider this, right? Even if I didn't have Ice Ryzeal or another Ryzeal play in my hand, let's say I was forced to just pass after that, ending on IP, Murakumo, and Great Purification here is still completely fine because it's 3 interruptions going to my opponent's 3-card hand. The Murakumo discard / negate, the Great Purification Omni negate. Murakumo will then revive itself after being tributed. And sorry, it's actually 4 disruptions because then I can Murakumo board wipe and I can still go IP into SP with the Murakumo if I needed to. That doesn't count the Imperm either. And again, that also doesn't count the Ice Ryzeal that we just normal summoned to go full combo anyway. But we have one last duel that we're going to show before we end off the video here. Okay, last duel of this video is going to be up against Maliss. Like I said, I was playing against a fair amount of this on ladder with my first play session here with Mitsurugi Ryzeal, and definitely don't sleep on Maliss. Yes, it just got limited, and yes, Mitsurugi is the fun, shiny new toy, but Maliss is still quite good in this meta. A lot of people, myself included, have been subbing out Lancias for duels pretty much in mass across all decks. Meaning that people are no longer going to be main decking nearly as much that silver bullet against you if you're the Maliss player. And not only that, but the card that they're likely to be playing instead, Droll Lockbird, doesn't affect you pretty much at all. So yeah, Maliss is definitely still a very good deck. It's probably still even tier 1. There's a chance it might be like tier 2, but if it's tier 2, it's the best deck in tier 2. But yeah, definitely don't sleep on Maliss. Yes, it did lose a lot, but for one, it could replace quite a few of those cards with stuff like Signet Mining, which is weaker than what it had before, but still, you know, still keeping it consistent, and is still more than capable of ending on the same boards as before as well. Alright, now here we are going to get hit with the Nibiru. We do get to use the Murakumo, which is going to force out an Imperm from my opponent. And this is one of the reasons why Nib, I think, is quite a bit better than it was before. As Mitsurugi Ryzeal does tend to play in it a little bit more a little bit more often than regular Ryzeal did. Thankfully here, we haven't used our normal summon, so I can just go normal summon sword. Go for the X. Unfortunately, the Nib token did keep me from searching with the X Ryzeal. Definitely not ideal, but we can still use Duo Drive here to grab Node Ryzeal as well as Cross. This is, I will also say, one of those situations where Great Purification is not really that great. If I wasn't playing Great Purification, I would have searched Prayers instead, and Prayers would have allowed me to revive the Murakumo on my opponent's turn, which in this situation would have been better. So, yeah, Great Purification isn't always the best search here. Unfortunately, Dominus Impulse from my opponent is going to force me to move into my end phase without getting to summon the Detonator. Opponent's on Code of Soul, which is, I think, even with the limits, still not great in Maliss, but that combined with the Link Revo is going to let them go into an SP Little Knight. Wonder if they would go after my token. They're actually going to go after the Ryzeal Cross, which is a pretty good move on their part. It's going to keep me from drawing into a top deck and also stopping me from monster negating if I do top deck something. I am going to go battle into the token before summoning Aramasa here. That way they can't use the SP to bounce out the token. But, yeah, end phase, they're going to use MTP to add Dormouse. Now, I do have the Imperm here. So, unless their last card is like another Malice Trap card or a Crossout Designator, we're all set. They go Dormouse, I'm going to go Crossout or Imperm. And they do, in fact, have Crossout Designator. So, yeah. That was pretty rough, and at this point, like, the hand traps I have, Droll and Nib, are going to be not super helpful here, because my opponent's going to be on the Dormouse line. They can go into an Appaloosa. At this point, I'm pretty much just waiting to see if they do. If they don't, then I can Nib, and I might have a chance of coming back if I get a good top deck here. If they do, I'm pretty much SOL. Alright, here's the red ransom. Of course, that'll activate, and then the link decoder will also revive. And red ransom is going to grab Maliss and Underground. So at this point, if I'm going to nib them, I need to do it here. But they also have Maliss and Underground, and they can just continue to combo off anyway. Still go into, like, access code talker with like the heart scripter or whatever and pop all my stuff. So I decided not to activate Nibiru here as a bit of a hedge and maybe see if they would misplay and go into something else. Unfortunately for me, they are going to go into an Appaloosa, which is pretty much going to seal my fate. I also, because I was toggled off, missed my opportunity to activate Droll and Lockbird, which means that they can still search off Maliss in the mirror. And yeah, I really should have played Droll even if I was bluffing the nib is off there. So yeah, when the Maliss opponent has the nib and the Crossout Designator to counter the Imperm, it can still be a little bit rough. But overall, I think that Mitsurugi Ryzeal is still going to be the better deck. That said, definitely do not be sleeping on Maliss. It is quite good in this meta, and even has a solid matchup against the hand traps, Droll and Lockbird, that are being used in this meta. Let's go and show off the list before we finish off the video here. Okay, so this is my build for Mitsurugi Ryzeal. It's the same list that I used in the combo guide. Again, that's going to be linked down below if you want to check that out. And 44 cards looks like a lot. I mean, it is a lot. Most decks tend to stick close to 40. If not 40, you know, usually no more than like 42. But 44 cards is actually completely fine for us because we play so many starters, right? In fact, we play 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, plus another 3 is 14, plus the bonfire makes 15, and you can even count normal summon Aramasa as a starter, because it does get you into full combo, for a total of 16 starters. 16 is a lot. That allows you to have a 90% chance of opening at least one of those starters, or close to 90% chance. I think it's 89 point some change, but pretty much a 90% chance to open a starter with 16 of them, even if you're playing 44 cards. We're also playing 15 hand traps in this build as well. If you wanted to cut down on your overall main deck count, I would actually suggest cutting Mitsurugi Great Purification. I'm considering cutting this myself. This card is quite good, of course, as an Omni Negate, but it's also a little bit win more because you're really only going to want to search this if you like fully go off and you don't go uninterrupted. Plus, as we saw in that last replay, it's actually even better to search prayers a lot of the time in case you get hit with a Nibiru. And that way you can still special summon a Murakumo during your opponent's turn. So yeah, the purification is very optional. You could just straight up cut that out of the build. Then you would go down to 43 cards while still playing 16 starters and 15 hand traps. You could go down to like 2 Imperm, or if you really wanted to Fuwa or Droll, although I think these are quite strong. You can go down to 2 Imperm if you wanted to further reduce your main deck, and honestly, you could even cut a copy of Sword Ryzeal. That sounds really weird, but again, we're already playing 16 starters, so going down to 2 Sword Ryzeal really would not affect your consistency that much. Plus, Sword and X Ryzeal are going to be 2 of your weaker starters, because if you open with these, then you can't end on your IP Masquerena, which really is not a big deal at all, but Ice Ryzeal is kind of your preferred starter as a result of that. Droll Knockbird is really, really good against this deck. That's why I'm playing 3 of it. And it's really good against Mitsurugi in general, of course, while still being great against Ryzeal. So, generally speaking, I think that this is the way to go as far as the current meta goes. But if Maliss is still persisting at like a 20% play rate, then at that point, I would actually consider putting Lancia back into my deck. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think a lot of these Mitsurugi decks are going to be, 1, more popular, and 2, also with the limits of Maliss cards, I think that's going to make that deck less popular. So probably going to be fine without main decking Lancia, but if Maliss is still seeing a ton of play, I would definitely consider putting it back in. Note that we're also not playing 7th Tachyon. If you wanted even more starters, you could play that. I would cut Utopic Ray Lancer for number 104 in that case, because this is definitely the rank 4 that you're going to go into the league. But every other card in this extra deck I think is really solid. I like having access to IP to go into either SP or Dynamundo. Dynamundo is a pretty great option to have in this deck. Of course, if you play it going second, you can potentially shuffle back and put a card in the opponent's field. And if you summon it going first, or summon it, off of IP Masquerena, then you can use it to revive the Murakumo in your graveyard, which once again will be a board wipe, as well as the negate/discard. So yeah, all in all, I think it's pretty easy to see why this is going to be the best deck in Master Duel, and I don't think that's overhyped. I do think this will definitely just be the best deck in Master Duel. Other Mitsurugi decks are still going to be really, really good, but I think that Mitsurugi Ryzeal is going to shine above all of them. But alright, that is going to do it for now. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. Let us go ahead and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.